Finally, we meet up with some beer lovers who decided they could drink their brew and make it too. Don't be afraid to try this one at home.
I've only been brewing about 10 years. I was interested in it a long time before that and just never took the plunge. But I started by coming here and getting a basic kit like everybody else.
Kent is a member of the Maltose Falcons, America's oldest home brewing society. Home brewing has become a hobby and is enjoyed by about 750,000 Americans.
I've been coming to this shop to buy ingredients for my beer for about 10 years and started getting involved with the club. We do a beginning homebrewing class we call Homebrew 101, and we teach people how to brew using malt extract, and it's a simpler way of brewing than an all-grain brew. What we're doing today here is a all-grain brew.
Craft beers are more expensive than commercial beers because they come from small breweries that use quality ingredients, so it's cheaper to make than to purchase.
If you're into good beer and craft beer, then homebrewing is the way to go. Just about $27 a gallon, which would make a 5-gallon batch $110. You can brew the equivalent beer if you brew all grain for about $20.
Homebrewers experiment with their recipes to create flavors not typically found in commercial beers.
The perception of beer is Bud Light, Miller Lite, Coors. When you get away from that perception that beer is one thing, then you start to understand immediately why beer is so wonderful. You know, when you look at wine, it just comes down to two styles. You get the reds and the whites. But the flavor profile on wines is nowhere near what it is in beer. Beer can be wild, it can be hoppy, it can be sweet, it can just be so many different things.
All grain brewing begins by grinding the grain with a machine, then adding it to boiling water. This creates the mash.
Earlier we saw the start of the mash process, mixing the grains in with the water at temperature to reach the target temperature for a particular beer. At this point we're doing what's called sparging.
Sparging is draining the liquid from the mash tun and into a separate kettle where it boils. This liquid is the wort and is basically beer before fermentation.
The sugars are generated by the mash. The malt going in is all starch. The enzymes at that temperature convert those starches into sugars that the yeast will be able to ferment and turn into alcohol and CO2. A little gas. So from the brew day, it'll probably be at least 6 weeks before it will be ready to bottle.
So what is this in the kit? On the table we have two different beers from the same brewery. This is a Belgian IPA, and it's phenomenal. Sweet, it's got a nice bitterness to it, and on the other end of the table you've got a wild ale with peaches in it.
Milstead's job as a certified cicerone is to educate people about beer.
Anybody can tell me what beer is, what it's made up? There's 4 ingredients in beer. Anybody? Hops. It's shared experience. It's a shared passion. Everybody, you know, they talk about all the, oh, I've tried this beer. Oh, you tried that beer? I've tried this beer. And it's just, everybody gets so excited and lifted up. When I was first getting into beer, and I was like, oh man, I'm on this beer advocate all the time, talking about beer, finding new things, trading beer. And my friend saw us like, hang on, beer advocate, does beer really need an advocate? And I was like, yeah, good beer does need an advocate. It's part of culture for, you know, thousands of years now. But I mean, how many times did you go out and you just mindlessly have a beer? Well, wouldn't that experience be better if you didn't mindlessly have a beer? You're still in the beer, you're still in the conversation, but you're like, every sip you take is amazing.
That's all for this edition of Impact. You can check out all of our episodes at uscimpact.org. Now let's take a look at some of our upcoming stories.
As far as going back, I mean, I would love to go back because, I mean, it's where my roots are, but, I mean, this is home. If I could become legalized, then I would.
Cannot help but feel like a king when you ride a wave in. And it doesn't matter if you're a quadriplegic laying down on the board, if you're an amputee who's able to stand up, or if you're a blind person out there, you feel like you're king of the world when you ride a wave, and just deep in your soul makes you feel good.